beast! Ah!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Not the Bees, the Nicolas Cage filmography podcast. I'm Megs.
I'm Elizabeth.
And this week we watched 2023's Sympathy for the Devil. An hour and 30 minutes long. We open on a small boy in a car. He's looking at a sonogram of a baby. He's worried that the baby is not going to make it because the last one didn't. His father, David, who's played by Joel Kinnaman, who is driving, explains that there were complications and this one will make it. Mom will be fine. Dad is dropping the kid off at someone's house. He reassures the boy that everything will be fine, and then he leaves to go and drive some more to get to his wife who's in labor. When David arrives at the hospital, the parking garage is crowded and he has to wait for another car to leave before he can park. There's a man with bright red hair, he's played by Nicolas Cage, who gets into the backseat of David's car as he's trying to park and pulls a gun on him. He wants David to pick a card, any card. After a couple of minutes, David finally names the ace of spades. The man pulls that card from his sleeve and says he knew he would pick the ace of spades. The man wants David to drive somewhere, and David tries to tell him about his wife. He has a family emergency, but the man says that he's David's family now and to drive. David pulls out of the garage and heads in the direction the man says, towards the strip there in Vegas. The man goes through David's stuff in the back. He's giving directions as needed, still holding his gun on David. David gets a phone call. It's his wife, but the man has his phone and doesn't answer. The car is running on empty, and David wants to know where they're heading. The man says to pull up at a gas station. While he's pumping gas, David tries to get a woman's attention, and he mouths the word "help me," but the man picks up on it, and he scares her off. The man tells David he gets it. That woman might have been his shot, but if he runs, then his family gets involved. David tells him to relax and get in the car. The man goes through David's glove box and sees pictures of his wife and the sonogram. He asks David if he's ever been to Boston. David says once, a long time ago. The man says David reminds him of a guy in Boston that drank a whole bottle of Glenlivet a night. David says he hasn't had a drink in years. The man asks David about his trip to Boston. It was for work. And then he stopped drinking, 15 years ago? And David says something like that. The man says to David that making an error like that this early in the evening isn't like him. Then he has a coughing fit and drinks from his flask. David asks how long this will take. When will he be able to go home? The man asks why he thinks he's ever going home. Then he says they're going to Boulder City. The trip will take about an hour. David says he can do that. The man tells him a story about his mother dying and they have to give last rites to her. David interrupts, explains that his mother was also really religious. It's why she married his dad and he used to beat her. The man doesn't care. He starts going back to his story about going to Boulder City Hospital, but David interrupts him again and the man calls him a prick and then his phone rings again. This time, David tells the man to answer his phone. His wife is in labor pretty deep. She's upset that he's not there. During a contraction, the man makes a noise and she asks who's there with David, and he lies to her and tells her that it was a window and then hangs up the phone. David's composure slips and he wants to know where they are going, but the man quotes Nietzsche and says, "For the devil may start to envy those who suffer too deeply and throw them out into heaven." David is freaked the fuck out, and rightfully so. They drive. David tries speeding by a cop and it works. The cop throws on his lights and sirens. David frantically asks the man if he should stop several times before the man finally tells him to pull over. When they stop, the man tells him he's just dropping him at the hospital, no reason to cause trouble, but if you look at that cop wrong, I'll shoot you. David's phone rings as the cop approaches the car. As the ringing stops, the cop arrives and he has David roll the window down. He wants license and registration. The man decides to ask why they were pulled over, going 11 miles over the speed limit. And every time the cop asks for the license and registration, the man has another question about the flow of traffic or the fairness of being pulled over, and David is just trying to get his license. Finally, the cop says, "Any more questions, you're in trouble." But the man can't help himself, and now the cop wants him out of the car. When the cop pulls his guns, things escalate. The cop starts calling for backup, and the man shoots him in the gut. Then he gets out of the car and goes and takes the cop's gun off of him, one of his guns off of him, and empties the clip, killing the cop. Then he grabs the cop's handcuffs and goes back to the car. David doesn't try to leave the entire time this is happening. The man tells David he warned him twice not to speed. David is in shock. The cop is dead. The man tells David to drive, but he says no. The man fires his gun right next to David's ear and says the next one goes through your face. David drives. David asks again why the man is doing this. The man says his mother, the hospital. But David calls bullshit. Just tell me. The man says it's too early to spoil everything by telling, and then tells David to pull off at the next exit. He's hungry. David pulls off as directed, and the man accuses him of thinking about crashing into something and reaches forward and unclips David's seatbelt. David looks down for a moment and then opens the door and jumps from the car, but he hurts his shoulder on the rollout. David's phone starts to ring again, and the man answers it. He tells David's wife that he works at the hospital gift shop, and David is making a call on a landline to work, but he wants to know what room she's in. Then he tells a very disturbing story about his wife peeing on the doctor during delivery and calls it sexual. David gives up his hiding spot and walks back towards the man, and the man punches him in the face and tells him not to do that again. The man hauls David up, and all David wants to know is if his wife is okay. She's had complications before. Then he uses the car to pop his own shoulder back into place, and they start driving again. The man tells David that his wife sounded okay. He asks David if they have a happy marriage. David says yes. The man says he's never been happy. It's because he has bad sinuses and monologues about nightmares he had of something called the mucus man. And then he makes David go to a roadhouse diner. In the diner, the man tells David there's someone waiting for him. The plan was to make David drive all the way to Boston, but this person was too excited and flew in to a private airfield nearby. That's where they're headed. The man sees the menu has a, quote, no substitutions note, then tells a story about a bookkeeper in Boston that worked for a hard drinker named Sullivan. Then he meets a nice girl, they get married, and they had a cute little girl. Then he says, when the waitress comes over, tell her that you fell down the stairs. He's all banged up from the car crash. The waitress comes over, David does tell her that he fell down the stairs. Her and the man quip about no substitutions rule. He's upset that he can't swap mozzarella for cheddar on a tuna melt. She says maybe she'll slip him a block of cheddar under the table, then she goes to get their coffees. The man goes back to the story. The bookkeeper was working for one of Sullivan's associates doing the books. And then the associate started to embezzle funds, and when Sullivan finds out, he tells the bookkeeper to invite the associate over to his house for drinks, and when the associate is good and drunk, Sullivan's guys come into the bookkeeper's house and shoot the associate. The same thing will happen to David when they get to the airport. The waitress comes back over, the man orders a tuna melt with cheddar, and David doesn't want anything. The man insists he orders, creating a scene, so David orders the same thing, and the waitress leaves. The man starts telling David he thinks his story of being a married man with kids is pathetic, and tells David to ask him why he's been drinking all day, but David stays quiet. The man keeps talking, and eventually David asks him who the man thinks he is, but the man says, "You're the witching hour." The waitress had mentioned it, and then goes into a lecture about the folklore of it. David interrupts the man before he can finish his sentence. The man loses his shit and screams at David about interrupting, and then tells a singular patron, a truck driver, to sit down. He punches David in the face, handcuffs him to the table, draws his gun, and then goes around and collects the cell phones. He tells the waitress to stay behind the counter and tells the cook to have their melts ready in 4 minutes with cheddar, not mozzarella. Back out in the dining area, the man changes the music and does a little karaoke and dances around on his way back to the table. The man tells David they're going to play a game. David's going to tell him the truth or he's going to kill everyone in the diner and anyone else who might come in. David insists he doesn't know what he's talking about, and the man says, "Don't ruin the game." David asks the man what his name is, but then his phone rings and the man lets him answer it, but it's a pre-recorded message. It's from the hospital. It's something to do with his wife. David says maybe she's with the doctors. The man says maybe something bad happened. Right at that moment, a woman and her young child walk into the diner. The man says tell him the truth. David says he's got him confused with someone else. Just tell me what you want me to say. He's not who the man thinks he is. The man says he never told him who he thinks he is, so how would he know? The man begins to get flustered, and David headbutts him from across the table as the waitress is walking towards them with the plates. She drops them and moves. The truck driver jumps from his seat and runs. The man tries to shoot either of them, but David pushes the gun away as he fires. The man punches David and gets up and shoots the truck driver as he's running for the door. He's not dead, so the man crushes his throat with his foot while he reloads the gun. David tries to tell the mom and her daughter to run. The man walks over to the mom and points the gun at her, and David says, "Okay, it's me. I'm exactly who you think I am." The man pulls him to the floor and punches him in the face several times, then calls him James and says, "You did this." He gets up and walks into the kitchen. The cook has run out of the back door, and the man shoots him in the back while he's fleeing. The man then goes into the restroom and finds the waitress. He asks her if she was being sarcastic with the block of cheddar comment or trying to be nice. She tells him through tears she was just being a dick. He points the gun at her for a few more moments and then he leaves. In the dining room, the mother and her child have run from the building, and David is still on the floor, desperately trying to reach his phone with his foot as he's still handcuffed to the table. He's able to get to it, and he calls 911 and tells them about the man. In the kitchen, the man turns on the gas on the stove and lights all of the burners. He then starts smashing bottles of liquor into them. David is finally able to kick the post that he's handcuffed to release himself, and he runs for the door. The man shoots him in his leg while he's running. Outside, David uses his belt as a tourniquet. The man comes out of the diner with a bottle of liquor and with a bunch of bottles of liquor, actually, and cloths, and begins making Molotov cocktails and throwing them all over while calling David James. David is hiding, so the man calls him on the phone. He says he's been watching him for a while, and he'll finish the story now about the bookkeeper. Everything in this lot is on fire. Cars, trucks, even a camper. The man picks up the story where he left off. The associate of Sullivan's was killed, but the bookkeeper's wife walks through the door and witnessed everything. She unravels. She's drinking. She's taking pills. She's telling anyone that will listen what happened. It was the man's wife. He was the bookkeeper. His wife became a liability, and the man got a call from a man named James Levine. David is hiding under the trucks and using the smoke to keep from being seen. He comes up behind the man and jumps him. They scuffle. David lands a few good blows and gets the man on the ground and starts wailing on him. The man repeats David's wife's location, which is the hospital she's at and the room number. It's enough to distract David. The man grabs the gun and pistol whips David in the face. He says he doesn't like to kill mothers, but if David doesn't stop fucking around, he'll break his rule. David says he'll do anything. The man says, get back in the car and I promise nothing will happen to her. David says, you and all of your associates stay away from her and my family, and the man gives his word. At this point, there are sirens heading for them. David and the man get up and go. David asks what happened to the man's wife and daughter. The man says James Levine is a fixer of sorts, tells him what he already knows about his wife. He tells Levine he'll take care of it. He decides the best thing to do is get out of Boston. He goes to the store to get a few things, and when he gets back, the entire house was up in flames, his family inside. But all he could hear was the rabbits. His daughter apparently bred and loved rabbits, and all he heard was them screaming. David says he gets it. He dies tonight. But the man made a promise about his family, and David knows he'll keep it. But his name is David Chamberlain. The man blows up, says he's delusional if he thinks that's who he is. Just then, a cop with his siren and lights on is in their rear view. The man pulls the gun and says it's time. He's about to shoot David in the face. David stops him and asks him why he didn't just kill him when he got into the car. The man said he wanted to look him in the face when he told him how he killed the man's wife. David says he'll say it. He'll say it right now. It was Sullivan's order. He ordered the hit. The man is listening so intently he doesn't notice when David goes to flick his cigarette into the man's face. Using this opportunity, David runs the car off the road and crashes into a barrier, and the car flips. The cop that was following them pulls up and two officers get out. The man has pulled himself from the car and is lying defeated in the dirt. Suddenly, the two cops are shot. David comes into view leaning over the man and then steps on his throat to choke him for a moment. Then David leans down and says he never meant to kill the man's little girl. When his wife saw him, she went nuts and started clawing at his face. He pulled the trigger 3 times. The man's daughter was lying in the hallway behind her. He was drinking himself to death when he met his wife. He knew their first baby dying was God evening the score against the man, but he still saw the faces of the man's wife and daughter. When his son was born, he knew God was giving back the man's daughter's life that he wrongly took. He tells the man he gave him closure tonight and wishes he could return the favor. The man is coughing and wheezing. James straddles him and strangles him. James wipes the gun and puts it back in the man's hand. He picks up the Ace of Spades card lying next to the man. Then he sits down and checks his phone. His wife has left a message. Their daughter is here, and she's beautiful. She knows he's okay. She's praying God will help him find his way back to them. James starts saying he's David Chamberlain over and over and over again as the sirens grow louder. As the sun rises, he stands and calls for help as the police approach. They yell for him to get his hands up as the screen fades out. The end. Elizabeth?
Yes, Megan.
What did you think about this movie?
This movie is not as tense as it thinks it is. It thinks it's some high wire act where everything is like tense drama, and it's just not. It's just boring.
I agree. I think this movie is as boring as it is predictable.
Yep.
Within the first 10 minutes, the whole, oh, when did you quit drinking? About 15 years ago? Like that right there, I was like, okay, all right, his name's not David. He's actually a bad guy.
Yeah.
Nick Cage actually isn't a bad guy. He's just trying to be a bad guy. And like, also, can we just, for just a second, what is it about Nicolas Cage? Does he have like a requirement built into all of his contracts that he needs to look like a really bad, washed out Vegas magician?
Yeah, his look in this movie is not great.
It's not.
But to be fair, the lighting in this movie is terrible too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, part of that I think is because it's filmed at night. The whole place takes place over.
But there are ways to film at night so that you can have color and saturation and not just washed out white faces.
You know, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that they filmed it at night and didn't make any of those adjustments.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yep.
This movie was really fucking annoying to me because it's so well acted. That's the part that really pisses me off. Between Joel Kinnaman and Nick Cage, it's very like their whole parts are acted very well, but everything around them, all of the people, all of the background, everything is like a prop. Everything is just like it doesn't fit in this scheme prop.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's not as tense as it thinks it is.
It bored me out of my mind, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a whole lot to say about it because it was just such a snooze fest.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same problem. I think I messaged you. I was about halfway through it. And it's only an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
And I think I was about 45 minutes into it. And I think I texted you and I was like, this movie is so boring and predictable. I had to turn it off. I'll finish it tomorrow.
Yep.
Like, it's not that it's not watchable. It is watchable. It's just, this movie is not what it wanted to be. This movie is not fully realized. There's so many things about it that could have been made better.
I agree.
In small ways. And it's kind of disappointing because, like, you see an effort like this, like they're big guys, right? Like, they're big names in Hollywood. This movie should have been better for what it was.
Like, I'm never a fan of a movie where person A asks a straightforward question and person B's entire modus operandi is to talk gibberish.
Yeah.
So, like, David is like, where are we going? And he's like, pick a card. It's bullshit. Like, answer the fucking question.
Yeah, indeed. Answer the fucking question. It's not that difficult.
But you can't do that because you need to stretch it to an hour and a half. So we need to play riddles and games. And this movie thinks it's being clever, and it's just not.
No, because from the very beginning, like, they're forcing a twist.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, they're forcing a twist. And, like, the whole... Yeah, it's not very well written. It's not very clever. Which, again, like, it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing when you go to watch a movie that should, by rights, be a good film. This movie should have been a blockbuster, given who was cast.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's just not. There's nothing about it that I really enjoyed other than it was fun to see Nicolas Cage with bright red hair.
You can't even tell that his hair is red because it's in the fucking shadows.
Yeah. And, like, the thing that I don't get is, like, this has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, how does this have a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes? It's not good. It's not good. And, like, I know how you feel about, like, revenge thrillers. Like, you're not a huge fan of revenge thrillers, and that's fine. I am. And I was so excited to watch this because it's a revenge thriller. And just, it just wasn't. It just ended up not being what it said it was going to be.
So here's our fun little piece of trivia for this episode. During a Q&A, the director and producer revealed that Nick Cage's red hair was a choice by Nicolas Cage and that he just showed up to the set with it.
Right.
So, like, that's not a makeup decision. That's not a costuming decision. He just showed up. He's like, I wanted bright red hair.
Yeah. And I mean, like that. Listen, I am a fan of any time that Nicolas Cage wants to bring his caginess to projects. I think that there have been movies that we've seen that are only watchable because of him being added to the cast, obviously. But I mean, this was just not good. It was just not good. There were a couple of things that I did like. I did like the Molotov cocktails because you just don't see enough of those in movies, I think.
Every time I had a problem, I get a Molotov cocktail, and boom, immediately I had a different problem.
Exactly. Oh, Jason was such a good character. Bortles. Anyways, I mean, like, yeah, like there were some things about it that I would have enjoyed. Like, again, the Molotov cocktails. It's always great when Nicolas Cage plays characters that have a very loose grip on reality.
Yes.
So, like, his character would have been enjoyable.
I thought his acting was enjoyable.
His acting was enjoyable. The writing for the character was just not.
Correct.
And like when I did the write-up and I left that quote that he said from Nietzsche in there, like he does shit like that through the movie. Like he talks about like just and like listen, I love following in like wiki holes and stuff like that. I have a whole bunch of like random useless information inside of my brain. I feel like when people were writing this movie, when it was being written, they were just like, I want to be able to throw like my favorite quote and like 3 of my favorite fun facts into it. And like it was just not needed. It doesn't groove with it.
Yeah.
Because it makes him seem like he's a much more serious character when he's not being portrayed as a very serious character. It's just this movie is a bit of a mishmash of things that just don't fit well together, coupled with really, really bad lighting and really, really bad writing. Like it's.
So what would we give this movie?
I mean, I would give it a D. I would give it a D. Yeah.
What about the caginess of it?
I think the caginess was actually pretty good. Again, I don't think that the caginess fit in with the theme of the movie.
Yeah, I was thinking like a B.
Yeah, I was thinking like a B. That's what I was gonna go with too. I mean, if you're insistent on watching every Nicolas Cage or every Joel Kinnaman vehicle, obviously you're gonna watch this, but my recommendation is to skip it.
Yeah, we have to do this, listener. You can skip this.
You can absolutely skip this movie. We're doing this so that you don't have to.
Damn right.
But speaking of that, listener, if you want to follow along with us, obviously, we are on socials. We're on Instagram at Not the Beast Pod. We do also have a Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/notthebees. If you want to head over there and support us. Supporting us also gets you access to our Discord, early access to episodes. And of course, we'd love it if you would interact with this or any other episode that you listen to. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. But otherwise, I don't have anything else. So for this week, I've been Megs.
I've been Elizabeth.
And we'll see you next time, kids.